morning, boys and girls of the internet. It's been a while since I had a daily vlog. I've been slacking on that, but I've been kind of not really feeling it lately. So I decided to put one up. Hopefully my audio works today. I actually did do a few vlogs over the last couple of weeks or so, every once in a while, and then the audio turned out to be shit. So I was like, fuck it, don't feel like re-recording it. So that's why I didn't do it. So anyway, I want to actually talk to something of a bit of substance. And for those of you who are not a fan of Game of Thrones, you can go ahead and stop watching now. This video is not for you. But here is my opinion on the state of Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is a extremely successful HBO television series. Has been fallen under a divided fan base of late. Now, I didn't really recognize it up until recently, but I guess like the divide has been slowly, widening over the last few years. So right now, we're in Game of Thrones season 8, the final season. And there's only like 2 more episodes left. So it's almost over. But when this season came out, it's been like 2 years since the season before. They didn't bring out a season last year because they were working on this final season for all this time. So it's been highly, highly anticipated. And almost every Game of Thrones fans were really rooting for it. But there was some like people in the back kind of, a little apprehensions because they've kind of fallen out of favor with Game of Thrones. The reason why is because they're blaming the writing of the show has gone downhill. That's what their opinions, and their opinions are valid. If they feel the writing of the show has changed and they don't like the change. Okay. Why is the writing changed? So for most people who knows the show and kind of gets into it, if they're just a casual fan, might not know it, but of course Game of Thrones based on a book series by George R.R. Martin. There's 5 books out, and this series is supposed to be a 7-book series. The last 2 books have not come out. So when you make a TV show based off a really long and intricate book series, what do? Well, for the first couple of seasons, they stuck pretty close to the books. There was a little divergence here and there, a couple of things they omitted, that was unnecessary, a couple of characters that they omitted that weren't detriment to the overall plot, and some other dramatic things that happened that, they totally sidestepped. A couple of things they added for the show that weren't in the books, and that always happens, and that's fine. But for the most part, people loved how close that they actually did stick to the books. Because like I said, for the most part, they did stick pretty close for the first 5 seasons. Around the 5th season, though, that's when it really started to diverge. People really started noticing it. But for most people who don't really read the books, they probably didn't care very much. I'm reading the books. I've read the first 3, and I started noticing where it diverged. I also noticed where things are staying the same. I'm on the 4th book right now. I just started it. And so the reason why that they stopped going off the books for the show is because they're like, we got no books to go off of. We're in season 5. We got nothing to go off of. Hey, George R.R. Martin, what happens? That's basically what they had to do. They had to go to George R.R. Martin and say, hey, your books aren't done yet. Tell us what happens. Tell us what your basic plot outline is. And he did. He kind of gave them a little bit of outline, like a short, I'm sure, little plot points here and there. And he said, this is basically where we're going with this. Whether or not you stick to it exactly, it's up to you guys. But here's where I'm going with it. I've surmised from all the interviews that I've seen of George R.R. Martin and the show's producers. and again, for the most part, they changed the tone of the show. Before, the tone of the show was sticking to the books, and the books were very much like a game of chess. You had all this, very political machinations going on. You had a lot of subplots, a lot of kind of like, I saw someone describe it kind of like dominoes. So basically, you start with a set of dominoes, you set things in motion, and things happen. And that's what Game of Thrones kind of was. It was very much things were just happening along the line. And, there was some people tried to put their own influence on the dominoes falling here and there, but when the dominoes fell, they fell, and like things just kept happening, because of a certain chain of events. Now, when the tone shifted, when it went from being off the books to being off just the show writers, they changed to more of a kind of like a blockbuster movie. That's the best I can describe it. And how I really describe that, it's more of a cause and effect. More like you're setting it up and you get a payoff. Basically, you set up a scenario and you get this big payoff of it. If you watch the show, you set up that, hey, it's a Ramsay Bolton, they have Winterfell, they're gonna have a big battle. And you set that up, and there's no real political machinations going on behind the scenes. You have he has our land, we gotta go take it, let's fight. And that's what happens. And so it's, people have described it as lazy writing. People described it as bad writing. I want to say there's a couple parts that, it might have been a poor choice for some of the writing in it. I'm not as hard as I don't criticize the show nearly as hard as some of these people are doing now, because some people are really hateful. I want to use that term. They're hateful towards the show's writers right now. Was D.B. Weiss and David Benioff or something? I think that's their. I always get their names confused. They're really hating them. They're like, oh, these people are the most dumbest writers in the world. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're ruining the show, and they're really angry. And you start to see it bubble up, especially they said season 7 was like the last straw for a lot of them. They're like, this is stupid, and what a lot of times what the show did after season, during season 5 and during season 6, is that they cut out a lot of the travel scenes. In the first 3 seasons, things took forever. You had Arya traveling with a hound, and it took an entire season to get across the land on horseback. And it took forever. In the later seasons, like season 7, they're like, oh, we gotta travel north to the wall, and bing, bang, boom, next scene, they're there. Well, you don't need to see them traveling. If there's nothing going on while they're traveling, you don't have to fucking show it. It's a show. You don't have to fucking show it. Now, especially since, as the show went on, the world and the machinations started getting smaller and smaller. I get it, probably the books aren't out yet, they probably have a lot more characters still in play. Because you think about it, it's a Game of Thrones, the Song of Ice and Fire, sorry. And it's like a gigantic-ass game of chess. It's actually more like a game of Risk. You have so many players in the field. But the show, they have a lot of players in the field, not as many as the books. But when players start getting picked off, guess what? The game goes faster. You don't need to show, hey, these characters over here, well, they need to travel, 1,000 miles north to get to the wall. While they're traveling, all this stuff is going on. And we got to go to this character, we got to go to this character, we got to show this character. So, it's going to take them a long time to travel. We don't have to show that. We only had, 2 major players And that's all you need to really show is the major players doing their thing. A lot of people took issue with that. And so, again, it's now like a blockbuster. You want to like put this big setup, something's going to happen, this big, impactful moment, and you lay it out, and it's a wow factor now. It's it's not lazy writing. It's just different writing. No one would accuse like Jurassic Park or something for being lazy writing because like, there's a T-Rex that they broke through the barrier here. I'm talking about the first Jurassic Park. But in like one of the scenes next, you see it's like a big cliff. It's a big drop off from the wall, down. How the fuck did T-Rex get there and shit? Get over that cliff. Well, they don't need to describe that. They're setting up this payoff, and that's what they do. They do what's necessary to pay off a scene. So it's just it's best to describe it as it's not bad writing, it's different writing. And the show is a different tone now. And if you don't like it, yeah, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. You don't have to like the change in tone. A lot of people don't like change in tone, especially when it's one cohesive show and you want the tone to last. But if you ask me, when you have a story like this where it is driving to a conclusion, the books are driving to a conclusion, they're killing off characters, you're gonna have to get to an end point at some time. When you're doing that, you're eventually going to have to condense everything. Everything's going to have to get smaller and smaller. And you're not going to have as many political machinations going on. You're not going to have that intrigue. You're not going to have... Not as much, at least. Because you just don't... It's not necessary anymore. But, again, I'm not going to have that. Now Season 8 came out. It's been 2 years. People were super excited. But, the first 2 episodes were very much a slow setup. People knew ahead of time. They saw the episode titles kind of ahead of time. They knew that the 3rd episode was going to be called The Battle of Winterfell, which is going to be the big battle against the Night King. Again, if you don't know anything about Game of Thrones, you won't know about any of this. It's a big battle against Night King and the world of the living, or the north of the living. And so people knew that was happening. So what they do, first 2 episodes, there was a build up to that. They had to do some character moments. They put some plots in there. They had to kind of give some information about Jon's heritage and stuff, and that was very dramatic. Because they're still characters, they still have lives, and they still got to do something until the battle. Not many people really criticized it too much at that point. Some people were all like, "Oh, that's kind of weird why they did it that way." Whatever. It wasn't too harsh until the 3rd episode when the actual battle happens, and the battle itself, from a general audience perspective, was fucking amazing. It was really cool to watch. It wasn't a very smart battle, and yeah, you can have smart battles that are cool to watch, but they definitely went for the coolness factor, the big aha moments, big shock and awe moments, over making smart moments. And they definitely wanted to give you, here it is, the Battle of Winterfell. It's at night. There's however many zombies are out there to fight. They don't know. It's probably 100,000. Who knows? And they got their armies there, got them set up, and it's set at night. When you're at night in a medieval field, you have nothing to see. You have no lights. Now, you got little fires. They could have planned it differently, but they wanted to have this thing as kind of like a scary thing. And they wanted to put you in the role of the army where you're disoriented, everything's dark, you don't know what the hell's going on, and you're losing hope. They wanted to first put it up like kind of an ebb and flow of, there's a little bit of hope, but then dread. A little bit of hope, and then dread. And that's how they set up the major parts of the battle. But then, of course, you look at the actual battle tactics itself. Again, it's not smart. They could have changed some things. Even I agree with a lot of people like, well, they could have done that a lot better. Open up with, you got this giant army of Dothraki, and they have their regular metal swords. And we know metal swords aren't really all that effective against the dead. You have to kill them with dragon glass, or fire, or Valyrian steel. But you have your first bout of people is a cavalry, pretty much, on horseback with metal swords. Why they set it up like that? Well, turns out, here, the first thing to show up on the field is marches up Melisandre, the Red Woman, Red Witch. They didn't know she was coming. She showed up, put her hand on one of the guys' swords, lit it on fire, and the whole row of Dothraki, all their swords went on fire. Yay! They got fire swords now. They didn't have that before. It was the first line of their offense. They didn't have fire swords until Melisandre showed up. They didn't know it was going to show up. Okay, very big critical point. I give people that. That was really kind of dumb for them to do. It made for a cool ass scene, though. That's the thing. It made for an awesome scene. You saw this big fire charge, and then they all went out. Everybody, they just fucking died. And it was like, oh shit, we're in for some shit. And that was the first 10 minutes of the show. I'm not going to describe the whole details of the entire episode, but some of the things that they kind of said were like, oh, all these characters, they got plot armor on. They should have been dead long time ago. Okay, you got all these zombies are washing over everybody. You got your main characters on these front lines. You see them, and they still live when a giant tidal wave of zombies hit them. Yeah, you got to have a very strong, suspension of disbelief there. You gotta have to go, okay, whatever, it's a show. These guys have to live because plot. Hence, they call it plot armor. But again, it's no longer, unfortunately, it's no longer designed to be smart. It's designed to be shock and awe and to be a spectacle. It's meant to be a blockbuster. And so that's what you have now as Game of Thrones. And I understand people, that doesn't sound right. They have valid opinions in that they don't like it. However, they're kind of, I think some people are kind of going a little bit overboard with their hatred for how it's going. Because not only are they just hating the show, they're almost going into the realm of personal hatred towards the writers in almost a dangerous way. You see this shit before with Star Wars. With The Last Jedi, all kinds of people didn't like it. Didn't like some characters, didn't like the director of it, and especially one of the characters who was this Asian actress, she started getting death threats on Twitter. And she had to quit Twitter because people didn't like her character and they didn't like the movie. Are we at that place now where, our media that is given to us by these writers are making fictional stories for us, for our entertainment? Do they have to try to cater to every single audience to a point where it placates everybody? That my hand looks really white there. Or placates every single person out there, so they don't get death threats. They have to go, we have to make everybody happy so we don't get death threats. But I guarantee you, I bet you, the showrunners of Game of Thrones, somebody out there is sending them death threats. Now, I don't want it to happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but it's probably happening. And so people hated episode 3 for sure. So much backlash, and plus people complained about how dark it was. It was very dark. But the moments that it was light, it was awesome as hell because they wanted to show you what they wanted to show you. And yeah, it could have been also a money-saving trick to have a lot of it dark, because if you don't have to animate 100,000 zombies because it's super dark out there, don't animate 100,000 zombies. It's not a... yeah, it's an expensive show for HBO to put on, but they don't have a limited budget. They got what they have to work with. Dragon fights were cool in the air. They show a lot of that, and people had issue with Arya killing the Night King just like that. My main point when it comes to this, okay, here we are, episode 3, the 6-episode final season, and the Battle of Winterfell. The Night King has to die. You have 3 episodes left. There's still a Cersei down south. The Night King has to die. No qualms about that. Unless you just want the Night King to win and head down south and fight Cersei. Then what? All your other main characters, Jon Snow, Daenerys, all them, Tyrion, Jaime, they're all dead. And Cersei's the only one has to face against the Night King. Is that satisfying? And I tell you, this could have been predicted. This whole outcome up to this point could have been predicted way back in season 7 when they had their whole big meeting of, let's go down south, have a truce with Cersei to say, hey, we got to go fight the army of dead. They're going to come, and either we all band together or we truce for now. Because we can't deal with this. The army of dead, they're coming, and they don't care who's signing, whatever. They're going to come and kill us all. So, Cersei, you want to work with us? Cersei, she didn't want to at first. Then she came out and said, I'm going to come work with you. I'm going to send my armies north, and I'm going to help you out. Turned out that was a lie. Now, at that moment, when she lied and she's like, she's not going to send her armies north, you could have predicted there's only 2 major outcomes. One, the Night King comes to Winterfell, have a giant battle in the middle of the season, and either the North wins, the living wins, and the Night King has to die, or the Night King wins. And, the North loses. At that point, whoever wins and loses, as Jaime said, they come down south and they kill them all. They kill, either the North who won against the Night King, they go down south, kill Cersei. The Night King wins, they come down south and kill Cersei. Those are your 2 options. Jaime fucking said it in the show, in the season 7. So if you didn't predict that the Night King has to die in episode 3, Battle of Winterfell, you weren't paying attention. You might not have liked it. Maybe you did predict it. Maybe you didn't like it. It's not my fault. That's not the show writer's fault. That's the nature of the show. This show could have been 3 more seasons, and they could have really dragged this out and made it more meaningful, make it more, plot and planning and smart. But this is what we have. This is what you have to deal with, and a lot of people are not going to be satisfied with it. With a lot of them with good reasons, and a lot with really bad reasons. If it makes them lose faith with the show, okay, that's however many people that are not going to watch the show. By last count, and I don't know what this last week's episode was, but the Battle of Winterfell had 17 million viewers, which was a record for HBO. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 17 million viewers for a TV show is a lot in this day and age. They had the 4th episode. The only thing I'll say about that is, God damn it, John, why didn't you go hug your dog? Your dog is a good boy. Hug your dog. Boop your snoot. Come on. That made me sad. I saw the poor dog staring at him with his red eyes. Oh, that was almost as heartbreaking as Hodor. Why'd they do that? Why'd they do anything? I mean, maybe John just couldn't bring himself to really say goodbye to Ghost. That was like the hardest thing. But he said goodbye to Sam. Sam was like, "You're my best friend in the world." And Ghost is sitting there like, "But what about me? I'm your dog. I should be your best friend. I'm a good boy." I think a lot of people would be more placated by the last episode than Battle of Winterfell, because A, you can see what's going on, and B, it actually returned to the plots, the underlining. A lot of people will call it, it's a little bit of weak plots and some weird plots going on, but I thought it went in a good direction. I thought, all right, this is keeping the tension up for these last 2 episodes that's coming up. It has to. You have to do something to keep the tension up, otherwise it's boring. You don't have 20 more episodes to deal with slow-moving, churning, machinations going on. You don't have to spend all this time plotting forever. We don't have the time. I would love to have the time. I would love to have 20 more episodes of Game of Thrones and then really drag it out. But this is what we got. And by the next 2 episodes, the last 2 final episodes, we'll know. We'll know how it all ends. The only thing we won't know is it going to end like the books? Is it going to end completely different than the books? My predictions? It's going to end similar to the books. But George R.R. Martin, when he finishes books finally, who knows when, he's going to be like, it's almost like the show, and everybody's fucking dead. Just whatever happens in the show, George R.R. Martin's going to kill fucking everybody. I don't know. It's good. So in that sense, it might be way different than the show. The books might be way different than the show. So that's about that. That's all I want to say on that. There's more I wanted to say, but it would add another 5 minutes to this video. It's already taking way too long. So that's all I'll say for now. Sorry if I didn't make any vlogs lately. I'm a little under the weather. I hope for these last half hour of me talking and driving that it picked me up, the audio, and it's not all rattly. But I'll talk to y'all later. Everybody look forward to the last 2 episodes of Game of Thrones. I'll be watching for sure. And have a good day. Love you.